Hi, I'm Carrie with Bison and Burrow at Play. Today we're going to look through my setup for the 2021 Wonderland222 A5 planner. This is the first in a series of videos on this channel in which I talk about my hybrid system of using digital tools and paper tools along with GTD as a foundation and the MakseLife goal setting system to do kind of life management type things. So if that interests you, stick around to the end or jump ahead using the timestamp in the description below to see kind of a roadmap for what's to come. For right now, let's point the camera down and take a look at this planner. Okay, so again, this is the Wonderland222 2021 A5 planner in Midnight Black. The cover has a kind of soft matte finish and is a hard cardstock. I've added the star paper myself and these tabs from Jet Pens, which are really inexpensive. The paper is the new 52 GSM Tomoe River paper, and you can see it has that really wonderful ripply effect when you've used it. You've added watercolors and writing. It has a sewn lay flat binding, which some people were worried about last year because it can look a little bit fragile. See how it gaps there? But you can see I've got this stuffed pretty full, and because it's sewn, it's going to hold up just fine. My 2020 planner did just fine. Okay, it's got that lovely sound from the crinkling of the paper. So there are 288 pages. The first 212 are planner pages, and then the last 75 are these undated notes pages. The squares are 4 millimeters, and the ink is dark enough to provide structure, but light enough to ignore if you want. And the pages are numbered, so you can do indexing like you would do in a bullet journal. Now, the planner starts in November of 2020 and goes through to December of 2021, and I use a repositionable adhesive tape for pasting in any reference pages or pictures, things like that. I also use occasional washi tape and stickers. I've started with some frontispieces of symbols that are important to me, as well as some identifying information. Some more here, and then it jumps right into an index. I fill this out chronologically as I go. There are a total of 3 pages of those. And then there is a spread with 4 calendar years. Now, I only ever use one, the current year, so I've set this off with some pretty washi, and I've painted each of the months with a different watercolor. And I also delineate it by quarter. The next spread is a year at a glance. This is a super handy page. I like to set it up with the seasons, and I use this to keep track of my time off. So I put my family schedule, including my kids' school schedule, my call schedule, and I keep track of my PTO and continuing education. The next spread seems to be pretty unique to this planner. I don't know that I've seen it anywhere else, and this is a 3-month quarterly spread. So first, second, and third quarter. Now, I intend to use this for tracking seasonal things like the equinoxes, solstices, when the first bloom happens, when the birds migrate. But someone else might use it for, say, like 90-day goal planning, something like that. So there are 4 of those. And then the next set of spreads is also cool. These are monthly trackers. So let me get it to focus. You can see it has the month, the days of the week, and the dates, and you can track any kind of habit or routine that you're interested in. If you want to keep track of projects, you could put a project name and then what the different steps are throughout the month, or you can keep track of people if you're doing project management. So super handy spread. I also like to tip in a exercise log because there are certain things that I like to keep track of, but this is just washi tape and I've tipped it in. Then because the planner starts in November, but I don't start until the new year, I have a lot of pages at the beginning where I just tape in references. So here are the moon phases, here are notes on a book I read, and then we get to some GTD reference. Now, this is probably going to be about the third video when we talk in depth about GTD, but these are the reference pages that we'll use when we do that. Okay, so then we get to the beginning of January. So there's a spread at the end of every month where you can do a review. I like to put in here things that I'm reading and listening to, kind of as a memory keeper. You can see I like fountain pens, and that's a little bit a hazard of the hobby. Not a big deal. Then there's space for a monthly reflection, which I have covered right now just because there's some personal information there. But for the overview for the coming month, I like to put in what fountain pens I currently have inked up, a list of birthdays and occasions for the month so I can plan if I want to send cards or call, a list of repeating monthly tasks, a happy mail list, and then my monthly goals in 8 essential life areas. And this is again from the MakseLife system, which we'll get to later. The monthly calendar I mostly just use kind of as a quick overview and a memory keeper. My family uses a shared digital calendar for keeping up with our schedule, so I really don't need to use this for reference, but I do like to put major events from the news or from our lives in here. I'm mostly a functional planner, but I do like to add a little bit of color every now and then with the occasional sticker. All right, so then we get to the meat of this planner. These are the weekly pages, and they're super great because they're so customizable, and I switch them up frequently without apology. So this blank one shows that it's got the phase of the moon. It has the weekend days over on the side here, but still with quite a lot of room to write. There are U.S. holidays. Let's see, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's not dark, so again, you can ignore it, say you're not from the United States. And then some lines that can give you some structure if you're interested in that. Now, what I do when I'm planning for a week is that on Sundays, I typically do what's called a weekly review. And that's when I set up my planner for the coming week. What I have here is space for any events that are happening that day, the weather, sun, and moon, my morning ritual, which includes like exercises that I'm doing, my schedule, and then a space for any notable events that happen that day, like something funny happens or you get something fun in the mail or you get a phone call, things like that. The schedule area gets what's called the hard landscape in GTD. So hard landscape are things that are appointments or places you have to be, things that you have to do. But I also use this space to pencil in what we call the big rocks, or these are things that need to get done, but probably won't if I don't actually make time for them from these different life areas. So at the bottom, I keep a list of weekly tasks for each life area from the MakseLife system, a little bit of a habit tracker, a meal planner, and an area to put other important weekly actions that don't fit under any specific goal category. I do keep most of my tasks in my digital task manager because this isn't usually open and with me during the day when I'm at work. So I use my task manager to keep track of most of my tasks. But again, this is for the big picture view, making sure that I've made time for the important but not necessarily urgent things that I want to accomplish this week. Now I use a bookmark to find this page easily. Let's see if we can focus it. This is really neat, and I cut a new one every week from this calendar called the Ecological Calendar by Chris Hardman. You can see that what it gives you is let's get the glare off of it, things that are happening in the night sky, planets that you'll see in the evening, the relative amount of sun as this calendar moves from the winter solstice to the March equinox and so on. You'll get more and more sun relative to the night. It shows you what planets are visible in the morning, the phase of the moon, and then just some neat pictures for things that are seasonally appropriate. So you have a year's worth of this, of monthly and weekly pages. And then in the back, there are notes pages. I generally choose an animal card of the year, not for divination, but just as a symbolic focus. The next section, this was a 2020 reflection, which I am skipping. The next section is for my 2021 goals. I'm using the MakseLife life assessment and goal planning system this year for the first time, and I'm loving it so far. You can buy the MakseLife planner, or you can buy a pared down version called companion notebooks if you already have a planner that you like, and that's what I bought. Unfortunately, the companion notebook shipments were delayed because, 2020. But because of this, and because the founder, Sierra Friend, wants people who can't afford the planner to be able to use the tools, she did put a lot of the pages online and made a video series on Facebook and YouTube. And I've been able to use that to craft my own goal planning section. And as I said before, we'll cover this more in the second video. But briefly, the compass assessment is based on 8 key life areas. She tells you how to score it and what kinds of things belong in each category. And then there's an intentions page, and I've chosen my word of the year, which is wholeheartedness. A couple little stickers there. I'm trying to remember the name of the shop that these came from, and it's not coming to me, but I'll put it in the description below. Okay, she also provides these worksheets. Now this is highly modified, or not highly modified, but this is modified to fit my brain a little bit better. It's not exactly what you'll see if you download the one she provides, but it's more or less the same kind of information. So I've done some brainstorming, and I've created a vision board for each of the areas of life. I'm not quite done with everything, but I'm working on it, and this has been a lot of fun. It's been really clarifying, and is going to really help me when it comes time to choose the most important annual goals to me. Okay? So once all the prep work's done, I'll decide on my yearly goals I want to focus on. In the MakseLife system, the goals can be stretch, progress, or maintenance. And I'm going to list them on this yearly goals page that I adapted from something called the Unbound Planner. The Unbound Planner is another beautiful bound notebook that you might want to look into if you don't already have a book chosen for the year. I bought this PDF version in 2020, and so I used the pages in a couple different places. There's a spread for future goals and dreams. There's a seasonal list, which is especially helpful if you own a home and need to write down what kinds of things you do at different times of year. Or say you're a gardener, that would be a really good thing. What kinds of things do you need to do in the garden, winter, spring, summer, and fall? Next is my ideal week spread, and we'll talk about the value of this in another video, but you can see I've got things color-coded to those different areas of life. It just kind of helps me know that I'm giving attention to each area. I have a spread for AM and PM rituals. And then I use the remaining space in this planner for collections that I expect to last for the whole year or that I need to refer to frequently. It's not enough space here to do the daily rapid logging that you might do in a bullet journal, so I do use a smaller dot grid notebook for that. So here is my collection for books of 2021. Books I want to read. I have a 4-page spread to keep track of milestones and other interesting things related to my kiddo. The spread of his graduation requirements. A spread to keep track of my continuing education credits and licensing requirements. And then here's a spread on Brene Brown's Living Wholeheartedly. You might remember that's my word of the year is wholehearted. And so when I was just kind of looking around on the internet, I found this website called mindfulambition.net. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to use this yet, but what I'd like to do is find a way to incorporate these lessons into my weekly goals. And then the rest of the pages are going to be used for projects and goals that I'm planning. So I put this whole thing inside my Lockbee Field Journal. And hopefully, I'm hoping this is going to stay in focus the whole time for us, but my Lockbee Field Journal. And I use this Lockbee dot grid notebook to keep my daily journaling and rapid logging. It's fits right in here. Got my pen and closes right up. So that's a lot of information. If you've stuck around this long, thank you. But now let's quickly go over a roadmap of what's to come. So I kind of printed something out here for us to kind of keep on track. I believe that by using the GTD methodology and a combination of paper and digital tools, that I'm able to lead a bit more intentional life, or at least not be a total victim to all the stuff that's coming at me. I don't do any of this perfectly. I'm a practitioner, but that's a big part of why I'm doing this video series. They say that one of the best ways to learn something is to teach it. So by sharing this with you, I hope to enhance my practice. There's also a degree of accountability, right? So if I tell you, hey, there's going to be a video out on this, then I'm kind of held a little bit more accountable for that. Okay, so with the paper tools, I feel this allows for more focus and clarity. I can see the big picture, set some goals, and do some visioning. The digital tools allow for speed and flexibility, access. It's basically more at the speed of life. The GTD supplies the robust principles that make these work in any situation. So you can have any combination of digital or paper tools, but the GTD is what holds it all together. So we just looked at the paper portion of my system. The next video or two will be on the MakseLife system and goal setting. Just because it's goal setting season, there's not necessarily a particular order to this, but you know, January, it's goal setting time. That might take 1 to 2 videos. I might split those up, and then the next set will be on GTD principles. If you want to get a head start, consider buying the book by David Allen called Getting Things Done, and then his update. It's not really an update. You do want to get the Getting Things Done book, but then the follow-up to that to take your practice a little bit further is called Making It All Work. There's also a free GTD podcast, or if you want to belong to a forum, there's a gtdconnect.com. It's very much a step-by-step guide and can help you get on the path. So then later videos, we can explore how I use the various digital tools with a planner in a functional way. So depending on interest, we could discuss the app I use for task management, the app I use for financial management, the app I use for project support and archiving. So that's kind of what I have in mind. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful and that you come back. You know what to do. Like and subscribe. Thank you. See you next time.